Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am LaShawn, your host, and I feel like I was just on here talking about how it's almost September, and now October is day after tomorrow. I mean, how are we here? Anyway, we are here and we are getting ready to enter my favorite month of the year, which is October. I really didn't realize how much I loved fall until I was an adult, you might say. It's the warm days with the fall chill. I mean, the chunky sweaters, jeans and boots, pumpkins, mums, apple cider donuts, and the gorgeous changing leaves. All things I think I took for granted when I was younger. I think I started to appreciate fall more when I moved here to Atlanta, and we would sometimes be at the pumpkin patch when my son was younger in shorts and t-shirts, tank tops even. But still, as Anne Shirley famously said, I am so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. With that being said, today we're going to talk about the books that I read in September and some new releases that I am excited for in the month of October. In September, I ended up reading 13 books, and I say that despite myself. Remember last episode when I was having a decision paralysis because I was reading so many books at once? And it was like, and all my library books had come in at once, and it was just a lot. Well, I ended up rereading two books that I hadn't read in a long time, which usually helps me get out of my reading funks. And then two things happened at the same time last week, both 107 Days by Kamala Harris and Alchemized by Sending You arrived in the mail. I had pre-ordered both of them and they both came. And I will say both of those books independently got me out of my slump. But back to September, there are only 3 books out of the 13 that I read that I want to talk about. So let's get started there. The first book I want to talk about is Crash by Kathy Lockhart. Let's talk about the premise. Code blue in the ER. That's how I ended up in his hospital, in my brother's best friend's care. Yes, this is a romance, y'all. I had to do what I had to do to get out of my slump. Anyway, Dr. Blake Morrison starred in every fantasy I've had since I was 16. Now, he's the only one who truly believes that there is something wrong with me. The only one who can save me, of course. But with each passing day, each failed diagnosis, I see him changing. The brilliant, controlled doctor is becoming something else, something darker, more possessive. These symptoms aren't random, he growls. Don't you love it when they growl? I think someone's hurting you deliberately, and when I find him, his fingers clench. They'll learn exactly how much damage a doctor can do. Woo-wee. His touch sets my heart monitor racing, and what's growing between us is more dangerous than any symptom, more forbidden than any diagnosis. But as my mysterious illness worsens, will the man who saved countless lives lose the only one he can't live without? I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. I typically really do hate brothers best friends trope, but this was well done. And it was well done. And now I want to read the next book in the series, which is, of course, not out. Because, of course, it's a series. Of course, it couldn't just be a standalone. I really do miss standalone books sometimes. Sometimes I don't want the story to continue. I don't care about the story of their best friend or their brother or something like that. I just want one book, and I don't want to have to wait for it. Anyway, it was decent, like I said. It got me out of a slump, and there was good, sexy time action, which is what I would know what you want to know about this romance book, but not too much. It was really just right. And there was an actual plot, which moved me from giving it a 3 to a 3.5. Hell, now that I'm thinking about it, let's just give it a 3.75 because it really was good. And I really am looking forward to the next book. All right. The next book that I read that I want to talk about from my list in September was Coffee Will Make You Black by April Sinclair. The premise. In this hilarious and insightful coming of age novel, author April Sinclair introduces us to charming Jean Stevie Stevenson, a young woman raised on Chicago's South Side during an era of social upheaval. Curious and witty, bold but naive, Stevie grows up debating the qualities of good hair and dark skin. As the years pass, her family and neighborhood are changed by the times, from the war on poverty to race riots and the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., from Black is Beautiful to Black Power. Against this remarkable backdrop, Stevie makes the sometimes harrowing, often comedic, and always enthralling transformation into a young adult, socially aware, discovering her sexuality, and proud of her identity. We read this one as the September selection for the Pouring Over Books book club. I couldn't remember much about the book other than I liked it. I read it when it first came out, but evidently I liked it enough to keep my original 1995 copy through various moves all over the country. That book has come with me from Miami to Vegas to Atlanta. So I loved it. I love this book really a lot. It was such a great time capsule of the change from the civil rights movement to Black Power, all seen through the idea of a teen. There were things her mother would say that I swear I've heard my mother or my female relatives, like my auntie, say, and it was just a good book. The writing was well done, and even though I wanted a little more, I love the way it ended. I highly recommend this one. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I read that I want to talk about is 107 Days by Kamala Harris. Yes, I finished it. Okay, you know what this is about. I'm not going to rehash this, but to summarize, just in case you don't know and you've been under a rock, this book takes us day by day through the 107 days that Kamala Harris had to run a campaign for president. I'm not going to do a traditional review of this because remember, I don't rate memoirs with a star rating, and I don't feel like you can rate someone's story. But what I am going to do is give you my takeaways that I got from this book, and you can decide if you want to read this book based on that. I highly recommend it though, because it is a piece of history that I think we should all know about. So, my points, my thoughts, my takeaways. To have been given only 107 days and to be compared to a standard campaign that had years to prepare is crazy. As she herself quotes on page 299 near the end of the book, 107 days were not, in the end, long enough to accomplish the task of winning the presidency. It just wasn't. And I need people to stop comparing her run to the run of her opponent. The second point, the staff around President Biden did her wrong. Full stop. Third point, she's just as down to earth as you think she is. There were some hilarious moments, some behind the scenes thoughts that you get that she really was thinking exactly what you thought she was thinking. And I love that for us. The next point, people seriously need a civics class on the actual role of the vice president. Like, there were a lot of people who needed to be left behind because they did not pay attention in civics class or government class or history class. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The next takeaway was what she did do, despite the loss, was extraordinary. Like, just think about what she was able to accomplish in 107 days, and I sit in awe. My next point, I miss the feeling that the campaign gave me. That hope, that joy, that feeling that I was a part of something important and that, we were going to be okay despite all of the division in the country. I still felt like in the end we would be okay.
And I miss that because now I don't have that feeling at all. Next point, I can't count how many times I nodded my head in agreement as a Black woman in America with many of the situations that she felt, that she faced. And if you know, you know. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All in all, was this the best written book? No. Was it one of the most interesting and timely and needed books I've read this year? Yes. Her side of the story needed to be told, and she needed to tell it. And she told it with grace and humor. And even though I know she held some things back, because obviously she didn't want to tarnish the legacy of people. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And she was gracious enough not to do that. And this is her version of events. This is what she wanted to share. I appreciated that. So even though I normally don't give memoirs star ratings, for the algorithm of it all, because I know how all this works with racism in America and how folks feel, I gave this one 5 stars on every platform I could. That's the end of that. All righty. Now, let's move on to what books that I am looking forward to in October. There are many, 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 many books coming out, but I have 5 out of the many that I want to share with you that I'm excited about and that I think we should all keep on our radar. I am leaving off a couple of my favorites because you'll hear about them in October when they come out, because I will talk about them. But for the most part, let's just get started with the ones that I think we should all have on our radars. Number 1, Mate by Allie Hazelwood. You know, the Allie Hazelwood that the book internet bullied off the internet earlier this year. Yeah, her. She's got this book coming out on October 7th. Since it's October, I thought a paranormal romance was appropriate. Serena Paris, the first human were hybrid, was meant to bridge the species, but instead, she's become a target in the deadly struggle between wares, vampires, and human. Orphaned and packless, she's running out of options, and her survival may rest with Keon Alexander, alpha of the Northwest Pack. Fierce and unyielding, Keon will protect Serena at any cost, even if she doesn't return his feelings. But enemies on all sides aren't her only danger. The secrets of Serena's past are catching up fast, and when they do, Cohen may be the only shield between her and complete destruction. I read the first book in this series and unexpectedly loved it. I did not expect to love it because I just couldn't see why she would go into paranormal, romancy, whatever you want to call it. No, I'll say this is paranormal romance. And I really loved the book. I ended up really loving it, except for the nodding, that is Knottting, which I will let you Google because I'm not going to explain it on this podcast. I want to keep this podcast as PG-13 possible. I don't want to strike against it. So I am really looking forward to that one. I have already placed my copy from the library on hold. I am number 3, so I expected to get it probably by the end of the month. The next book on my list that I am looking forward to is Dear New York, Voices from the City by Brandon Stanton, which comes out also on the 7th. From the creator of Humans of New York and 4 number 1 New York Times bestsellers comes Dear New York, a sweeping, intimate portrait of the city and its people. Opening with a moving prologue, the book unfolds across nearly 500 full color pages of never before seen photographs and stories, over 75% brand new. Spanning all 5 boroughs, this collection captures the contradictions, vibrancy, and humanity that makes New York City unforgettable. Both a love letter and a tribute, Dear New York offers a deeper, more personal glimpse into the lives that shape the soul of the world's greatest city. I love, 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 love his page, and I love reading the stories behind everything. So I'm interested in reading or listening to this one. I don't know, whichever one I get my hands on first. I can't wait for that one. The next book on my list is Boomtown by Nick Stone, which comes 14. When dancer Damaris Charm Wilborn vanishes from Boomtown, Micah Lyric Johnson knows it's more than a misshift, especially since her former partner and lover, Felice Lucky Carruthers, disappeared the same way. Determined to uncover the truth, Lyric is pulled into Atlanta's underworld where power, privilege, and the betrayal collide. As allies and enemies blur, she must decide if finding these women is worth risking her own life. A gripping thriller, this story delivers a pulse pounding journey through secrets, danger, and the fight for survival. Nick Stone is traditionally a YA writer, and her book, Dear Martin, has frequently appeared on the banned and challenged book lists. I'm really curious to see what the publisher is calling Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl Meets P Valley. If you've seen P Valley, you get it. Um, it's on Showtime. Yeah, yeah. Is it on Showtime or Stars? I don't know, but Google it. If you know, you know. That's all I say. So I'm really curious about this one. And I always love it when authors try something new, especially if that something new goes well. So I will be adding this one to my list. I think I put this one on my library list also. The next book that I am looking forward to in October is Future Boy Back to the Future and My Journey Through the Space Time Continuum by Michael J. Fox, out 1014. In 1985, Michael J. Fox became the face of a generation. By day, he was Alex P. Keaton on the hit sitcom Family Ties, and by night, he slipped into a DeLorean as Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Running on little sleep and sheer energy, Fox juggled two dream roles at once, creating characters that define the decade. Blending Alex's bravado, Marty's charm, and his own effortless comedy, he captured lightning in a bottle, leaving behind not just performances, but cultural touchstones that still resonate with fans around the world. Michael J. Fox himself reads the audiobook of this, and that is the version I will be purchasing. I cannot tell you how much, as a child of the 80s, how much of an impact Michael J. Fox had on the culture for me. I watch Family Ties religiously, and I can still sing that theme song back and forth, word for word. I have watched every single Back to the Future movie, the country one, the last one, that was awful, but I watched it. And all of his other 80s movies, with The Secret of My Success randomly being my favorite. But I cannot wait to get my hands on that one because I just always want to hear his story. The next book on my list is called Blind Date with a Werewolf by Patricia Briggs, which comes out in 21. Sel, a deadly but lonely werewolf, receives an unexpected gift from anonymous friends. 5 blind dates to complete in 3 weeks. Reluctant but corner, Aesop finds his reclusive life turned upside down when the entire pack joins in with a betting pool. This heartwarming collection from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Mercy Thompson series includes 2 brand new stories and 3 fan favorites. Between awkward encounters, unexpected sparks, and holiday mischief, Aesop must face more than just a date. He must confront what it truly means to open his guarded heart again. I love the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs and the spinoff, the Alpha and Omega series, which is what Aesop is mainly a part of. He's been in both, but he's mainly a part of the Alpha and Omega series. I have been waiting for the next book from both series with bated breath. And I believe the next Alpha and Omega book comes out next year. So in the meantime, the author has given us this series of short stories, and it's Christmas themed, about one of the deadliest but sexiest characters in either series. So while I wait for the next book, I will take this one happily. And I don't even like short stories, but I will take this one. I will take this one. Okay. So those are the books that I want to put on your radar for October. And I hope you heard something that you want to add to your TBR. Now, let's talk about what I am currently reading. Hey, hold on a minute. Let me get some water. I am currently reading Alchemist by Sen Yen Lu. Let me read you the premise, or rather, let me summarize for you because it's kind of long. Helena Marino, once a gifted alchemist, is now a captive of Palladia's corrupt guilds and necromancers. Her resistance allies are dead, her powers suppressed, and her memories fractured, especially the critical months before her capture. Though records mark her as an insignificant healer, her her loss raises dangerous questions. Could she hold the key to the resistance final plan? Sent to the High Reeve, a ruthless necromancer, Helena must battle not only her prison and her captor's dark secret, but also the shadows within her own mind, fighting to reclaim her identity before it's destroyed forever. This book has caused a lot of controversy due to various reasons that I won't get into here today. Yeah, I won't get into it this week. Let's just say that before you come for me, I have done my research and I feel fine reading it. I may or may not expand on this next week if I decide to review it on this podcast, because I'll be finished by then. I may or may not address this, or I may just leave it alone. I don't know. It depends on how froggy I'm feeling. But the book, all that to say, the book is 1,024 pages. Let me repeat that. 1,024 pages. I will say that it moves quickly, so you don't feel like you are reading that many pages. But I will also say that it feels like 3 books in one. Like, normally someone would break this book up into a trilogy, but this author, no, they decided that you are getting all of this story at once, which honestly I appreciate because I hate waiting for the next book. That being said, this was billed as dark romantasy or dark romance. There is nothing romantic about this book, like nothing. In fact, I was slightly traumatized in the first section. I'm on the second section now, but the first section literally traumatized me. I was like, why? But I couldn't stop reading. And I always say, when something like that happens, that's a mark of a good story. I'm about 50% through the book now, and I'm going to label it as wartime gothic horror, which honestly fits for this time of year. I cannot see the romance part. I see where they might get it. There is a romantic undertone, but I would not classify this as romantasy or dark romance. It's horror, and that's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what I will start after I finish this. I feel like I'm going to need something really light and refreshing and fun after this, so I will probably break up this book with my next book with some frivolous romance that I find on Kindle Unlimited. I'll let you know. But I do have a long list of maybes. First one on my list is Our Vicious Oaths. I've been on chapter 4 of this book forever because I keep getting distracted by other books. I think I talked about this maybe 3 or 4 podcasts ago. I will be finishing it this month, though, because the publishing date is at the end of the month. Also on my list is The Wilderness, of course. This book is due back to the library on the 14th, so I have to finish it by then. The next book on my list is Asada by Asada Shakur. She died on Friday in Cuba, and I had actually added her book and a few others about Black Panthers and the Black Freedom Liberation Movement to my TBR back in the summer. I realized that there were holes in my knowledge about this era. In school, we were taught so much about MLK and briefly Malcolm X, but nothing really about the Black Panthers that wasn't violent, I might say. And as we should, I have decided that it was time at my big age to educate myself and fill in those gaps. You are never too old to learn something new, and you should never be ashamed when you don't know something. The only shame you should feel is if you don't actively go out, seek out that information when you realize you don't know it. So anyway, I'm waiting for my copy to come for the library. So that is next. Those 3 books will come into play some kind of way in the next few days. Okay, friends, that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and find other bookish friends. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email us at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com. And you can also connect with me at the Pouring Over Books Instagram account. And you can also find me at LaShawn Wiltz on both TikToks and IG, or you can follow my Substack at Letters from LaShawn, where I talk about life, books, motherhood, and perimenopause. Anyway, that is it for today, friends. I cannot wait to talk to you next week. I hope I gave you something to enjoy to add to your TBR. All right. Have a great day. Bye bye.